Jack?
What?
You got
Hey, yo.
Geno, you all right?
I'm great.
All right.
With all my special guys, what could possibly go wrong?
Who do I hear talking? Is that you?
Nobody. Yeah, somebody talking?
The voices in your head.
I didn't hear anybody talking. Did he hear an ad talking? I didn't hear an ad.
You didn't hear anything?
No. I did. Well, just now.
That woman. Yeah, there was
all right.
nothing there. Okay. All right.
Wow, just hit the ground running on Monday.
All right. Welcome to the Artie Quitter podcast. Our opening theme song. Dan, play the opening theme. Is the air conditioning. This is what we have the rights to, Jack. Here's my air conditioning unit.
A lot of people are bootlegging.
Dan, you got to set this up better for the... I want the album cover to be Dan holding that microphone. That's the last album cover of my career. Are you okay? So that's the opening theme. Here's the solo I like, and we're out. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Artie Lang Show Band.
Hardest working producer in the biz.
This is an absolutely special fucking show. This show got more reaction.
I don't mean to be kissing ass, but that was very funny.
That's our opening theme.
That's very funny. I guess it's also proof I don't listen to the show.
Listen, nobody does. Nobody on the show does. Okay, so this got more reaction on Twitter than any show we've ever done. This is Jackie, the Joke Man Martling.
I can't handle that.
Is in my
Twitter.
kitchen.
They get, you're a comic and you do a show to 300 people. If
Yeah.
everybody's dying and one person's not laughing,
hard.
that's all you can think about. So these idiots get on there and go on, and I just walk away from the computer. All I can think about is the horrible crap. It's nice even something as subtle as nice to see you two guys getting along again. We never not got along.
I know it's brutal. Geno Bisconti's here too.
Hey.
And, Geno's a comedian. No, I don't know. There's young comics now who don't take any chances, and they'll never get better because they're afraid to bomb for one guy on Twitter. It's true. You're not alone in the club with those 300 people anymore. You're in there with the whole fucking internet.
I don't put anything on there. People
Yeah.
say stop putting ads on there. I put ads on there because that's all I do there. I'm not going to sit there and write something so this many people can enjoy it. And 2 people can say you're an asshole, and I can walk around all day thinking I'm an asshole.
Well, I was going to ask you about
I know that.
You can do that on your own.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you about the Twitter universe now. It's perfect for you because the 140 characters, the jokes. Do you tweet jokes? Have you embraced that, or you just don't care?
Embrace it to a certain point. I found a program that can put them out every day, and I've been doing it for 3 years.
Right.
But I do bad jokes and horrible jokes of all kinds, but it was really fun. I don't do it as much as I used to. Taking a joke and making it fit 140 characters, which is really a challenge, and it's really fun.
You got to make the Y-O-U, the letter U, and it's a pain in the ass.
But I do but you got to take whole, speeches and concepts and who's saying what if you do an actual story joke. It's
and
crazy.
you end up looking like a girl who's a senior in high school, her yearbook caption.
Too young to go 4 boys.
Yeah, it's very gay.
But, hey.
Feminine.
But so I do a joke every day at 4:20 p.m., which is International Marijuana
the pot
Time,
stuff,
right?
yeah.
And the jokes get passed around. I'm not doing that well. The rappers sneeze and they get 6 million people. I got like 33,000.
Yeah, but do you really care at this point?
No, I like doing it. I like throwing a joke out there, here and there, and piddling. And I look to see if my numbers are good.
But you got to understand, if Twitter was around in 1989, you'd have 1 million followers.
It makes me nuts because my wife and I, when we started in like 1979, 80, Danny was just telling me how he used to get the stuff that I used to send to Chicago.
Sure, yeah.
We put stuff together and put stamps and make copies and put stamps, and it was so much work. And now it's so easy, and I don't do it because it's so easy.
It's bad timing, exactly. It's too fucking easy.
Yeah, when the Stern Show was really, really cranking.
Oh, forget it, yeah. 89, around 91, when you guys first went to L.A. after a couple of years in Philly, you probably would have had 1 million followers on Twitter.
You've been crazy.
I know, I would have followed you. Why? And every friend I had would have. And, I wanted to ask you, I don't mean to harp on this Howard stuff with the way the show is now. I don't mean to be a thorn in anybody's side, but it would be retarded for me not to ask this, having Jackie here. You were, me and all my friends' hero because you were the most politically incorrect guy, didn't give a shit. The jokes were all funny. You were funny. And now in this world, and now that Howard's gone into of political correctness, Could you see yourself on this show in any way that's on now? And that's not something bad about the show.
I've never listened to it. I have no idea what's going on there. And the mixed reviews I hear.
Well, it's not Gary the retard anymore. It's Gary the whatever, the astronaut or something. They don't say retard.
Yeah, like it's the super actor.
But I hear about people that say, well, they got the guys putting bananas in their asses, but they got Howard interviewing Jennifer Aniston. So the show is all different now, but it still sounds like it's crazy on one side and not on the other side.
Well, you see, I hear different. I don't listen that much. I hear there's no banana in the asses anymore.
Oh, see, so I don't
None?
So
it's kale in the asses now.
But,
it's different.
But that was very good.
There you go.
But I don't know what anybody does. I don't know what Gary or Fred or
I'm saying,
Rob.
well, based on that information alone, they can't say Gary the retard anymore. There's no.
No, that's plenty. No, I couldn't be there.
That's plenty.
When I was, and I'm not a big perpetrator of all that. Be mean.
No, you just were honest.
To be funny.
Honest, whatever was funny. Yeah, without any.
To be funny,
and that's what the show was. But I think Howard very smartly has gone into the world of. He sort of evolved, and he's 62. It's a different thing, throwing chicks on the Sybian and everything. But
I've never said, listen, anybody can change all they want,
right?
But just don't say, don't jump in the water, don't jump in the water, don't jump in the water, and then jump in the water.
Yeah, no, you're right. It changes all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a little crazy. I got to tell you. What time you got to be out of here?
No. What's going to happen here? I don't know. We got an hour and a half.
2:45. 2:45.
Something like that. Yeah. Oh wait, 2:45. Yeah.
So in 1986,
this is hilarious.
we go to mornings, and the reason I'm there in mornings because I've been slipping them notes. I was working for free for 3 years, so I'm slipping them slowly but surely.
Well, tell everybody exactly how you first got there. You were sending shit to the show. You were sending jokes.
No. I never heard of this guy.
All right.
I was working in Washington, D.C. at Garvin's. And Harry from Garvin said, hey, there's a guy that used to do broadcasts in his underwear from here on Friday mornings.
Right. Howard was big in Washington.
And he got fired, and he's going to NBC. You should look him up. And at the time, like I said, me and my wife, my girlfriend at the time, were sending out albums. Nancy Sirianni. By the time it got to be 1982, when they told me about this guy going to New York, I had 3 comedy albums and the cassettes that matched them, and promo. And anybody I met, if I met Geno, I'd say, "Hey, how you doing? Let me send you something." And I would send 3 albums, 3 cassettes, for no idea. Just like Danny, just like when I sent stuff to you, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, here's some albums. You got any ideas? So I sent them cold, just absolutely blank, without knowing anything. I know who this guy is. Howard Stern, NBC. I mailed the albums.
Right.
And a couple months later, he called up and said, "Hey, it was really great because Nancy calls up. I was in my mother's attic. That's what Jokeland was. My mother's attic.
In Long Island.
Shettyland.
She said, "Hey, that guy Howard Stern just called. He wants you to call him." I called. He got right on the phone. He said, "Man, you know every joke."
Right. So
why don't you come in and sit in on the show today?
So this would be early '83, late '82.
1983 February.
Right.
And I went in there and sat there with Robin and Fred and Howard. At the end of the day, he said, "Man, you're fun.
Right.
Why don't you come back next week?"
And you literally had papers in front of you. No, write jokes. You had it start.
No, it was so gradual.
Right.
And the stories are so funny. The first time I can really remember doing something, I probably have told you a story, so you can stop me.
No, I'm telling you, there's a lot of young people listening to this podcast who are fascinated by this. That's why
I'm sitting there with Al Rosenberg. Al Rosenberg is very funny.
Right, another funny radio guy.
Really funny radio guy. And he used to come in as Lou Ferrigno, the deaf wrestler, whatever.
I remember that.
The Hulk. Right. So he's sitting next to me. And I'd like to say that this was so long ago that the Stern Show had Coca-Cola as a sponsor.
Wow.
Imagine that, okay?
That ended.
So we're on NBC. We're on NBC AM. And the show had to end at 7 o'clock when there was a Knicks game.
Right.
Okay? So we're getting out of there at 7 o'clock. So Howard would read liners. And I'm sitting there like, you're a comic. How do I get in here? How do I get on that stage? How do I get in that group? How do I get on that show? Your mind is like, that's just how what am I going to do? How do I insinuate myself into this stuff, if that's the right word?
It is.
And thank you. And I'm sitting there, and Howard, we're just about to go sign off. So every guy in the tri-state area is listening to WNBC because the Knicks are coming on and all the people are listening, right?
The Bernard King Knicks, they were actually good.
I was about to say, it's so long ago, Coke was the sponsor and the Knicks were good.
That's a long time ago.
So I'm sitting there, Al, Lou Ferrigno is named me.
Right.
Because he's deaf and he talking funny because he's deaf. So Howard starts reading a liner. It says, And Robin, Coca-Cola wants to make sure that you have plenty of Coca-Cola and snacks on hand for the show. For the game. And I wrote down snacks real quick, put an underline and put a question mark. And I wrote snacks, snatch, and put a question mark. And put it in front of Al, and he goes, and Al's so fast, he goes, snatch? When you say Howard? And Howard was just, to his credit, right? No, Lou, I said, snacks. That's right, you can't say that. And they went back and forth with snacks and snatch.
That's great.
I still have guys that tell me they almost drove off the fucking
You got to think about back then, too, first of all.
Oh,
I
man.
can't imagine on regular radio saying snatch now. And imagine Ryan Seacrest saying snatch on the show.
So,
secondly, you started that avalanche of what happened.
And then slowly but surely, I would kind of give him a note here and there or give him some ideas. He used to do a thing called Mama Look a Boo Boo Day.
Right, I
He was a
remember.
black
Sure, yeah.
reporter. And I don't know
That ain't happening today either.
I don't know. I don't know the parameters of the stupid show, but I came in after a couple of weeks and I handed him a stack of papers. He says, "What's this?" I said, "It's some material for Mama Look a Boo Boo Day. A
Right.
bunch of black crazy
Stereotypical
stuff."
black
right.
woman, right?
And he looks at me kind of like almost like, "What do I need your help?" But he didn't say it wasn't mean.
Right.
So I was so excited back in those days. I'd listen to the show, and all of a sudden I'm listening to the show, and I hear Mama Look a Boo Boo Day, and I hear my stuff.
Right up your
And
alley.
I'm like,
Give us an example of some stuff.
I have no idea. Like just really,
But Howard's voice, I remember, was literally like,
it was a different type. It was like, "Hey, Robbins, I'll be up here. I'll be looking down. There'll be traffic, Robbins.
That's gonna go for it today.
I don't even guess at what I wrote.
Right.
But I still have all of it.
Right, I'm sure you
still
do.
have all of it.
That I'm sure.
Which is fun. So slowly but surely, I'm giving him ideas. And the next time I came in, I said, "Here's some Mama Looka pages." And he looked at me and said, "Thank you." You know what I mean? It was like,
Right.
we were, so over the course of 3 years, I'm kind of,
Well, having been on the radio now, it's amazing to have. You think about how, like, when you're riffing on something and you're trying to say stuff that's funny, when you're out of stuff and you got to bridge it and you're afraid of dead air, having that material is insanely helpful, and knowing it's good is insanely helpful.
it was slow but sure, and I
Right.
give him an idea. We weren't really on the fly yet. I give him ideas, and at some point, I just said, "You know what, this is bullshit," and I got myself a stack of paper and a Sharpie and did it right, and just slow. But it wasn't like a regular thing. And then all of a sudden, he got fired, got rehired, and I was back on one day a week at K-Rock, and all of a sudden they went to mornings.
Right,
And
so
he called me up
fall of 85, you go to K-Rock, and you're still in the afternoon.
I'm not on K-Rock. He got fired at NBC.
Right, you weren't there from day one.
So I wasn't there from day one. He said, I'll get you on when I can, and then I think I joined up in like January, and then the rumors started that, oh, man, we might go to mornings, and nobody thought it was going to. And all of a sudden, I get a phone call. I'm on the road, Virginia Beach, and we're going to mornings, and we need a price for 2 days a week.
So in the meantime, you were doing stand-up to bridge the time and waiting for a call.
We were running governors. Oh,
Right.
you mean in between? Yeah.
No, waiting for you were like, I'm going to wait for Howard before you get another job, maybe in radio.
But I was
You're
working
like-
for free.
Right,
I wasn't
okay.
making a penny. I was doing stand-up the whole time for the plugs.
Okay, so when they call, they say they need a price now.
Yeah, and so I gave him a horribly low price. I said, how about $200 a day?
Wow.
So I started $200 a day. So I spent the next
2 days a week or the whole week?
for 2 days a week.
Okay.
So I spent the next 15 years trying to dig out of that hole. But then I went to 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. But we went to mornings. So we're on the air. This is the 2:45 story. And Robin starts, "Oh, Howard, there's a rock and roll quiz. And they gave it to everybody in Congress. And the Congress people said that it wasn't good because the questions weren't old enough. Because I guess the old congressmen knew oldies, the Platters and the Drifters.
Right.
So, and he said, "Go, give me the test, Robin. Give me the test. I'll see how I do." Meanwhile, I'm passing notes, but nobody knows I'm passing notes, and I'm making them funnier, and we all know I'm making them funnier. And I don't care that nobody knows, but it'd be nice to, So Robin asks him some questions, and he answers them, and she says, and I got tape of this. I'll send it to you. She goes, "What was the hit by Gary U.S. Bonds?" So 2:45 was his biggest hit. Right. So I wrote down 245. And I passed it to him. And he fucking said 245. And Fred goes, No! And me and Robin and Fred are...
And when the song goes, we dance till 2:45. That's the song, right?
We went
He said
off,
2:45.
they went off the rails, and he's out of the joke. He's like, listen, tell me what you're laughing at. And finally, Robin says, no, it's not 2:45, it's 2:45. And he said, well, I do it digital. And everything. And in my mind, I'm like, now everybody in the tri-state area knows I'm hitting them.
Right.
Nobody had any idea.
And then, so it skyrockets once you guys go to mornings to where you guys are enormously
It was
popular.
crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And I did not.
I mean,
to
I remember
segue
it,
into
yeah.
that, but the first thing he said was 2:45.
When I have to leave today. But so now you're telling me that. Wait a minute, you said something interesting. You were at a day rate.
Had to happen eventually.
You were at a day rate for 15 years.
No.
What you said you
No.
dug out of that rate?
In other words, I got 200 a day,
Right.
and I went from 2 days to 3 to 4 to 5 very quick because it was a lot funnier when I was
Always 200 a day though.
It went to 1,000, but then it went to
Right, okay.
1,500 a week, and,
Oh, good.
and it leaped up healthily. But
Right.
it's still, if you start at zero and you quadruple it every week, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm working my way, but we're going to the moon, and they're giving me 7% salesman raises. I'm
No,
like,
you
no,
got-
I'm not doing that.
When
know?
you went to Philly, I think in like '89, you syndicated to Philly for the first time, and like trying to make an analogy of how popular you guys were from '86 to '89 in New York, it was insane. It was like the Beatles. It was nuts. How I mean, I worked construction at that time. We wouldn't get out of the truck. We'd be late for a job. Listening.
I love the story. Yeah, I couldn't
Yeah.
go through the tunnel because I
Right.
would have missed the punchline and all that. And my whole thing was, it's a sorry argument, and I'm sure Twitter will blow up. You cheap fuck. You walked. They call me cheap. You walked away from millions, but if the company's making $1 gazillion and you had something to do with it, you know,
had nothing. You were thinking like an American.
if you're a lawyer, and you're working at a firm, after a certain amount of years, you become a junior partner.
Right.
You don't get 30%. You might get 0.002%, but you're in on the fun.
Absolutely.
And my argument was, listen, if we got 10 markets, if we hit a market, put another shekel in my envelope. If we lose one, fucking take it out.
Yeah.
I want to score. I don't want to play
You're
football.
part of the win. You're part of the loss.
You
right.
don't want to play football and have people say, look, pay no attention to the scoreboard. It doesn't affect you.
Well,
fuck you, you know?
You know what's funny? When I first got the job there, it was so awkward because I was coming from mainstream show business with unions and everything like that. And, I never spoke when the conversation would go to you and it was sort of on a negative slant. I never, ever, out of respect to you, first of all, because I loved you as a fan. But the other reason why was I would have felt like a huge hypocrite because to sort of demonize you for just wanting more money for being on a successful show would have been against everything I was about in show business,
And I tell people I wasn't pricing myself out of the. If somebody
Right.
says, Artie, do you want to go to Alaska for a week? You don't say no. You say, I'll do it for $300,000.
Right.
And then if they say yes, you're stuck with the deal. But you don't just say. So I didn't price myself out of the ballpark. Each time I walked out 3 or 4 times, I was asking for a reasonable amount of money, and they met it. And this time was reasonable again. And it really was.
I never heard you-
I was making a lot of money,
Yeah.
but not a lot of money for a guy that came up on the world's most successful.
Right. If
radio
you could
show.
have seen the figures that the show was probably making, everybody would go, okay, Jackie's got a point.
Wow, there were people that did the old math of if they had to give Jackie
Yeah.
what he wanted, there would have been 0.00003 of how it,
Yeah, no one's saying it's not completely Howard and it's all.
Oh, no,
it's
not
his
him.
genius. But it's. I mean, look. The other thing is, Mel Karmazin was interviewed a couple of days ago, and he said that what are Howard's options? He owns all those tapes. He owns all those old tapes of the years you're talking about, and he said he could even do like a Seinfeld thing, a syndication thing, where he just puts it out there and makes all this money just from those shows running in a radio syndication type of thing, which has never happened before. But listen. In the world of TV, a guy like you know the kind of money you would make if that was a sitcom. You're getting zero compared to what like a writer of your stature on Friends would have $1 gazillion.
And
So you have every right to maybe feel frustrated.
People can't believe that, they say, well, at least you get to live on your residuals. And I said, people have no idea.
Right.
It's. You would think, and I've learned at the ripe old age of 52 that if any sentence you start with "you would think," you're about to say something you shouldn't think.
Right.
But you think at some point you say, Jackie, I made $1 gazillion and you really had something to do with it. Here's a couple $100,000. Like, you go live for the next 3 years if you got that much.
What you got to understand is there's been years of people, thinking you're wrong. They've been brainwashing to think you're wrong for saying that. Well, what you just said is insanely reasonable. As a matter of fact, it's what America's about. What you just said. It's like it's him acknowledging that you helped out quite a bit, and
and if you ask them. My crime on that show was I asked for more money and they said no, so I went home.
Right.
Which is, that's your right as a person.
And
boss, I don't want to deliver pizzas for $3 an hour. I'd like $4 an hour. We can't afford that. Okay, I quit. It's not like, well, let me go after you and your family with a hatchet,
And again, when you're
that
alone,
was not a nose joke.
No, I'm saying,
Whoa.
when you're
I had to say something funny at some point, Dan.
when you're alone on that show, you're very alone. When you're on a desert island, I think you have the quote of when someone's getting bashed. It's the funniest thing in the world unless it's happening to you.
Well, the main talent to be on that show is to be able to turn, you know what I mean?
Pile
like
on.
the great thing about being in a band, I had a partner for the whole decade of the 70s. And if I didn't like how it was going, I could look at him, the heads would turn to him, and I get a 2-second respite, and then I'm ready to go again.
Right.
You get so people say Jackie's a jerk, his cat died, Jackie's cat died, blah, 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 and all of a sudden be like, oh, look at Gary's ass. Oh, yeah, Gary's ass. And all of a sudden,
Forgot about Gary's ass.
Well, and by the way, I mean, I don't have these feelings because I felt I was always taken care of, and my stand-up money went through the roof. I said I went from the Funny Bone to 3,000 seats. But when I say this, I'm not saying it because I think I deserve more money. I was taken care of. But I do, as the guy who replaced Jackie, I would like to publicly say that I really am in Jackie's corner in this whole situation, and I was back then, but it's a very awkward situation, and for anyone to think you sound a little greedy or like an asshole for thinking that is so insanely wrong, is the point.
What's really funny is that they all call me cheap.
Right.
And I'm like cheap to leave over a certain amount of money. Jackie, it's so little money. Well, if it's a little bit of money to me, then how little was it to K-Rock and Howard?
Right,
I mean,
right.
if it was little to me, and I didn't. And one of the things that was kind of hurtful is that I'm a pro.
Right.
Yeah, and I really am. I was in that seat at 6 o'clock for 15 years. Unless I had diarrhea or was getting married.
I was there 8 years. I was in that seat on time for 6 of those 8 years.
But I mean, I was a loyal guy. And I was always there writing.
You all were. That was the thing. All you guys were like the sun coming up. You guys were there. Everyone, you, Freddie, Robin, Howard, you guys were there for us.
So, and then meanwhile, I'm not getting my contract a couple times, and
Right.
I said to Tom, all right, well, I'm not, at whatever point, I'm not coming in on Monday because, we're not, if you're a baseball player and you don't get your contract, you don't go to spring training. That's
Right.
the only card you got to play.
Right.
So I told him, and all of a sudden, here it comes Monday, and, and it was always the same theater. Where's Jackie? I don't know. Oh, and then the next time it happened,
Right.
Tom, I'm not coming in on Monday. I don't have my contract. Make sure Howard knows. Okay, no problem. Where's Jackie? And Robin's like, oh, he did it to you again. So the whole people think that I'm spitting in the face of the show. When
Absolutely.
Of course I didn't do that.
It's a crazy, toxic atmosphere.
Oh.
It's just, and again,
and you'll say the same thing as me.
Right.
It was fun 150% of the
my
time.
God, fun is not even the word.
Right.
Again, I'm saying I'm not. Your pain caused my joy in a way. Like you paved the way. You created that position. There's only 2 of us in the history of, you could say, comedy that have sat in that chair, and you set it up for me. You created it. I sat there, and I benefited completely. I have 0 complaints. I left. It was my fault why I left. And again, I felt for you in the sense of this. Like, your one ally should have been Freddie.
Well, that's the problem. There was no ally.
Right.
Nobody on that show has ever said, can I have more? So not only did I say, can I have more, I sounded so loud. I was like the Jew in line to go in the oven saying, this sucks. And the guy in front of me saying, be quiet, they'll get mad at us.
I love it.
That is a harsh. That's a harsh analogy. But I'm saying, Fred, Fred is both, and you'll agree with this, a comedic genius. Fred might be the most talented motherfucker I've ever met.
Artie, I've gone hoarse.
Yeah.
Telling people about Fred. He's so funny, so fast, so brilliant. You'll be talking to him, and before you finish saying what you're saying, he has something to say back.
He's a comedic genius, Fred, and I learned a lot from him. But he's also a guy who is very passive. He's from sort of like that rural thing. He doesn't want to start any trouble. He's also an insanely nice guy, the nicest guy in the world.
Nice.
So, in other words, he felt bad. He really felt bad asking Howard for more because he felt he was always in the position where Howard was doing him the favor, even though, you and him created a show that was way better than it could have been in your own unique way. So you would say to him, Fred, look, it's America. You're allowed to ask for more. And Fred really, because he's such a nice guy, wouldn't. And
we never had any conversation whatsoever.
Right.
I would have never, I
tried to poison that whole well.
We were walking along. Me and Gary and John were walking along after after the whole show debacle, and they told us we're getting $10,000 a year, and I said, that's really crazy,
A raise.
And then the next day, I hear that Gary went to Howard and said Jackie was trying to get us all to quit. Like the Friends people did,
right.
Just asked for, but I don't know exactly how it went down, but it's divide and conquer, and nobody, and all of a sudden I'm the bird that's saying, give me another worm, and they're like, who the fuck woke him up?
Was there any truth to the rumor that you were done anyway? Like, were you burnt?
No.
If you would gotten the money, you would have definitely come back.
And I would love to have been there, but I was so fried. And it's like anything. There was a lot of factors, and and I always start sounding.
You did the road too. That's what Robin and they weren't doing that.
Right.
We had that. Yeah.
I always sound so full of shit when I start going because it sounds like I'm piling on the reasons.
Right.
But everything weighs into every decision you make.
Sure.
Okay. I know I'm getting divorced. Me and Nancy are living together still for 2 or 3 years, but we're living together because I'm working 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to Las Vegas on the weekend. Then I'm working 5 more days a week. When I finally have a weekend off, I'm not going to go look for a fucking bachelor pants so I can be a multimillionaire cooking on a hot plate.
And then you're also going from nocturnal to the having like a paper route. You got to,
right.
It's crazy.
So I knew if I got divorced on the air, who knows what would happen. Even if they didn't say anything and the listener called up and said, hey, that girl's taking half of Jackie's money, that bitch, blah, blah, and it would have been horrible.
Now you're hearing a lawyer spew that back in the court.
And Nancy is still one of my dearest friends, and I loved her, so I didn't want that to happen. I knew, I don't think I had a plan to quit drinking, but in the back of my mind for at least 5 years and maybe longer, Jackie, you got to stop. You got to stop. I did hear something interesting.
It's a big thing, yeah.
This has got nothing to do with anything. A friend of mine's mom, she's been an alcohol counselor for 50 years.
Right.
And I got to be friends with her, went and had dinner with her and her husband. They're like 85 and 95. I just love them. They're brilliant. And so she's an alcohol counselor. And she said, well, what kind of problem did you have? And I said, some people think I'm full of shit because I quit drinking. And I tell them, they say, you didn't have a problem. I said, listen, I never got up and needed a drink.
Right.
I never had a couple beers and watched the Yankee game.
Right.
When Nancy and I sat around and watched primetime TV, we never drank, and she was smiling. I said, what are you smiling at? She said, anybody who uses the word never to describe their drinking is an alcoholic.
Yeah,
now, how crazy is that?
Wow.
That was pretty astute, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you need to be able to describe it, right? So I knew that in the back of my mind, I really had to quit drinking at some point. I knew I was going to get divorced. But the thing was that the whole thing with putting Benji there was kind of like to say, we don't need you.
Very weird.
Very
awkward.
And you should see, because I did a podcast, and then somebody listened to it and then paraphrased it.
Right.
And said, they brought in another writer. And I got emails from writers saying, what's wrong with you? We always add writers to shows. I'm like, no, that was not the situation. Did you listen to the fucking podcast? I'm sitting in a 2x2 place and they put this fat guy on my head, So and he was good, but we were such a well-oiled machine. I'm writing a joke.
Right.
Fred might pass me a joke, so I'm writing. I read Fred's, mine, pass it, and as he's talking, we're on to the next one. All of a sudden, I got a third guy
Yeah.
I got to read Fred's, write mine. It's just
because it was filtered through you because you were sort of the king of sort of knowing what Howard would like.
When somebody had to be the final.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So there were all these factors. So I made in my mind what I wanted. And I said, listen, this to myself, you make your own deal.
Right.
I said, if I can get this, I'm going to stay. That'll be my deal with myself. I'll keep biting my lip and going through it because I was shot after 15 years.
Yeah,
and know.
Liz, no, you're right. Now, if you're doing, again, I think Robin was on a book tour and she had our schedule for one weekend and she came in late on the Monday.
Yeah.
She did it one weekend and she came in late. She said, look, I had to do this. And I said, yeah, that's what we do. Now, look, no one's forcing us to do it, but, that money is there. What are you going to do? You
waggling that money.
Yeah.
And it's your deal with the devil. And that was just the line in the sand I drew for myself, and I was determined to stick to it because I wasn't breaking the bank.
Right.
I didn't think I was. I
weren't even close to breaking the bank.
And so it came time for my contract, and the whole time after my last contract, when I walked out, Howard kept reminding me, "Hey, you better not break balls about your contract because we just won't renew you. You better not break it."
Right,
and I said to Tom, every time somebody says something like that to me, that shores me up to do it.
Yeah,
because that's the kind of fucking idiot I am.
You're a comedian. That's what we all are.
Right,
so self-destruct?
Right.
So self-destruct.
Okay,
I can do that.
We'll do it.
Well, there's a fine line between self-destruct and standing up for yourself.
No, you're right, man.
I'm not sure they happen to be one and the same thing. but so here came time, and what people don't remember is Howard didn't have a deal.
Right.
Until December 14th, just before we went on vacation. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, Tom Chiusano had just come out of dealing with a horrible disease, and he's going to go. So Howard says to me, listen.
That's right, Tom just got over cancer.
Yeah, and Howard says, listen, he pulls me in like the Thursday or Friday before we go on a 2-week vacation. He says, look, it looks like me and Mel are going to work this out, so you might want to put your deal together.
Right.
We're on vacation. Tom goes to Paris. I said, listen, go to Paris. We'll deal with this when you get back. I'm a good guy.
Right.
And he comes back and they say, this is what we're offering. I said, it's not good. They offered a little more. And I said, how about this? And they went back and forth. I asked for this and it went up. The first thing they offered is like a salesman raise, and then a little more. And then I didn't hear from them from like the first week or second week of January till March.
Right.
Just no response, no nothing, no anything. And my guy said, listen, you got to not go in. They're never going to budge. They'll let you sit there and work at, Oh, and Tom at one point, Tom said, if you don't get this deal done, it's not going to be retroactive. And I'm like, the fucking guy's threatening me. And then so
now you got to, still it's a major life decision at that point. You still got to go, now what do I do
Well, the
here?
point is it was a major life decision because they could have called.
Right.
All right, we're going to go. And then after a couple months, I really felt like an idiot. And it wasn't the money, the fame, the blah, blah, blah. For the entire time, every time I got interviewed, I'd say with pride, the day I went into that show, it was Fred and Howard and Robin.
Right.
And today it was Fred and Howard and Robin. It's been 10 years. It's been 15 years. But, each time. And all of a sudden, I'm the guy. It's not the four of us anymore. And the whole thing of, that it's not the money, it's not the fame. It's sitting in a room with four people and laughing for 4 fucking hours. It's like
insane.
you go to withdrawal.
Yeah.
So I called Howard and said, listen, if the deal's still on the table, I'll take it. And my guy called, it was plenty of money.
Right.
It just wasn't what I want, but I caved. And my lawyer called and said, listen, Jack, you'll take the deal if it's still available. I'm still waiting for them to call back. Oh, they said, we'll definitely call you back one way or another.
Oh, good.
And after all those years.
Wait a minute, so they just never called you?
Never called.
Wow. Oh,
which I think people say, what's the big deal? You go to audition for a gig, you don't
that
get
part
it.
I didn't know. Wow.
You go to audition for a gig, you don't get it. They don't call you and say sorry. But this is a pretty major thing. Like,
It's not even close to that situation. Yeah, it's
just never make sure you. We'll let you know either way.
Man.
See, what normal people don't get, the people that are it's like when the way we get paid as comedians is like, you could do something for $10 when you're first starting out and be thrilled with it. But when you get to a certain point, if you feel you're being underpaid, you're miserable with yourself. And then the work suffers. So when you leave the show, you're actually doing the right thing because you're like, you can't sit in a studio where you're like, what the fuck am I doing? And it's got nothing to do with
It's hard to be funny.
It affects the work.
That wasn't my situation because I worked in a fucking foxhole. I was in a foxhole for 15 years. They were doing a movie the Howard Stern movie without me in it.
Right.
I mean, I didn't exist.
Now,
my character, they didn't tell me about the movie. I don't know if you know that whole fucking story.
Yeah, no, sure, I remember that. But you're in the movie, though.
When they redid it.
They
started from square one again.
Really?
You talk about...
Wait, so the first script you're not in.
You talk about how you feel. I'm sitting there in a foxhole. This is in the small studios.
But what was that about back then, Jack?
And Fred and Howard's there and Robin's there, and all of a sudden people are walking in to work with a hat on with an H on it.
Right.
I'm like, what the fuck's going on? They had a production office, and they were taking people one by one and putting them on videotape and interviewing them about their contributions or what they do on the show.
Right.
And one by one, everybody came in with these caps. And what's going on? Well, it's like when somebody's not invited to the party.
Yeah.
People don't come up and say, by the way, Geno, you're not invited to the party Friday. You know about it?
They do that to me. They do that. It's hurtful.
And then I guess the whole thing fell apart. And then Howard came up and said, you know what? We're starting my movie again. I didn't like the way it was going. They left out some of my guys. Some of my guys.
So they were trying to do the movie without you in it.
Like I didn't exist.
Wow.
No,
what do you think?
I don't think somebody's going to play me. I think there wasn't.
But wait a minute,
there
what was that?
Be a guy there passing notes.
But what was that about, Jack? What at that point, was it just about money? You think, or was it about?
No, I think it was
some sort of contempt towards you.
No.
What was it about?
What did I do on the show?
You gave him notes.
So they're going to show the radio show with me passing notes. Now what happens in the movie? I don't know that, but
Right. Okay.
What's the movie? The movie ends.
Right.
And here's our new guy, Jackie Martling.
Okay, right.
You never saw,
But no, isn't there there's a scene in the movie where you're doing the
match game.
The match game.
We're not passing notes.
You're not, that's just you.
Right. Write down, blank willow. Blank willow.
So they do, that's right. So from 82 to 85, you're not there in the movie. That's right. I'm thinking, because I'm always thinking that scene where you're doing the match game, they did cover it, but I guess they did.
That wasn't writing.
Right.
So for whatever reason, and I wound up being in.
You think they didn't want you to show he was using a comedy writer?
I don't know. I don't know.
I understand.
No, I've never had that conversation. But the point is, I'm sitting there, we're doing a show, and I'm passing notes, and we got this greatest fucking show in the world going on.
Right.
But they're making a movie about the show that we're doing that I'm not in.
It's almost it's a movie about the Beatles, but without George Harrison playing.
Right. but George, sit there and keep playing.
Right. Okay.
And by the way, play really well because we're a pretty big time.
So I mean, my God, as a fan,
I'm not a whole fucking big bitter thing about it.
No,
I'm just saying he's saying about
listen,
if there ever was time to hold back and say fuck you, I'm not writing.
Right. I mean, listen. It isn't about a bitter thing. I get where you're coming from. It's just about telling the truth. You're being honest about your feelings there without any hate in your heart. And I mean, the thing about podcasts now, what we're doing is I like that you're having a chance, a sort of forum to explain this. Because, I mean, look, not only was I a fan, I was a part of that family afterwards, and there's a lot of new information I didn't even know about.
Well, and they aren't 2-word answers.
Right. No, it's very difficult. Yeah, it's hard.
It wasn't like I'm getting off the show, fuck the world, or I'm going to show. People say, "Oh, you wanted to show that they needed you." No, I asked for a few more dollars.
So for a long time, there's bad blood there. I mean, for a long time.
That rolled right. Everything rolled off my back.
Right.
It had to roll off your back. You couldn't sit there
and
think about it.
I always said, speaking to Geno's point, he's 100% right in the fact that, for several years, Howard and I had a friendship off the air too, and on the air, everything was great. And then there was one time where, I took something kind of personal on the air. And for 10 minutes, it was hard to laugh with the guy. It was hard to be funny on the air. And it is hard if you have hate in your heart for somebody to laugh with them.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what that show's about. And that's why for 10 minutes it lasted, I got over it and we went back into it. And, whereas some people though, and I worry about these people. Some people can do it. They can be that phony. Can put with hating you. They can be funny.
Which is frightening.
It's very frightening.
Then you don't know which guy you got.
Right.
Because they attacked me about everything, and so much of it was theater, and so much of people can't. I always say the same shit, and I'm sure people are sick of it. But there are a lot of things he said to me that was so horrible that I handed him.
Right.
Like, people can't wrap their brain around the fact, you bald fucking, you boozed up poor loser, a nice string of words. Maybe when you're going off the top of your head, you couldn't string them like that. And here's a little tiny little monologue. You bing, 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 maybe with some amount of
Billy West was called in 2 weeks ago, and he was telling the story about how he would have the puppet, and you would be handing him the line.
Oh, that you could see. That you could see on the E show.
To attack you.
Well, no, see, on the E show with that, you could see that dynamic, that which was amazing. Like, you're handing him jokes, he's doing that. To me, that's as funny as the show ever got.
Yeah,
that's
ridiculous.
So,
but the point is, there was no animosity. We just went on and had fun.
You go on from there.
I mean, I literally sat there 2 feet from him for 15 years, and we laughed and had fun every day.
And I was the same way for 8 years. There's no bonding like doing particular radio, but in particular that show, the way it's set up. It's like you are laughing with someone like you're in the second grade, and you're a couple of feet from.
Right, but it does make me crazy. I am still friends with, I would say, I can't think of any exceptions with everybody I've ever met in my life.
Right. No, I can't.
Except Howard.
I can't see hating you.
Yeah,
Yeah. No. Listen. So now, but sort of the hatchet gets buried in the sense that we go to Sirius now, and it opens up the channels where now Howard gives you a show that was, by the way, a great show, funny to listen to. The way you set up those jokes and talked about them with the theme. And you come back to work for Howard. Now, how does that come about? Like, I mean, was that hard to do? Because you love that show. You did.
That's,
Jackie's Joker.
All the stories I tell are true.
Right.
It's so funny because somebody will ask me about leaving the show, and I'll tell them, and they'll say, well, that's what you said 15 years ago. I'm like, well, Jesus Christ, that's what fucking happened. Mark Twain said, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I spent 45 minutes on that page when I was taking acid in college. Wow, that's brilliant, Mark. Wake him up. I want to tell him, But I used to go in, there's this great guy, Phil Iazetta. He's now in charge of 24/7 comedy.
I know Phil Iazetta. Yeah.
You should get in contact with him because he's such a good guy. You can send in like a quip or some kind of funny thing,
right?
And then say, oh, and by the way, I'm going to be in Las Vegas tonight at the Wynn Hotel, and he'll play the whole thing, and you'll get the plug. And there's hundreds of thousands of people listening because it's terrestrial radio.
Right,
I mean, you can't say you're two cunts walking to a bar, But it's really fun. And
Just scratched out my contribution.
And he used to have a show at noon on Sirius. In the beginning, Sirius was, I remember the first time I walked in there.
Right.
There was a huge map of the world.
And
you could track the satellites, and it was like Oz. People walk around with smiles. It was like the new world.
When me and Fred, they made me and Fred go over there when we signed the deal to get a tour, and that was still up there. That's where our studio became that. They knocked it down to make our studio. Right?
But when I walked in there, I was like, this is unbelievable. Then they're talking about making me the voice of Raw Dog. Did I tell you this whole thing?
I sort of heard
the voice
this.
of Raw Dog.
Right.
And so all of a sudden my guy Toby Ludwig calls me up and says they took the deal off the table because they think they're getting Howard Stern to come to Sirius.
Wow.
And I was like, Toby, why don't they just tell me they don't want me? Because he's not going to. Because I thought there was no way he'd ever go to Silent Radio because the whole show is dancing around the rules. That's the comedy, is dancing around.
A lot of people said that, yeah.
Well, and I really believe that. But Phil had a show where people would call up and instead of requesting songs, they'd request an artist,
right,
a comedian, and almost every single person they called up, I had some stupid bullshit story about. So I'd tell my story, then he'd play Red Fox or whoever. It was really fun. And then the Stern Show came aboard, blah, blah, blah. And we walked out one day, and Gary was standing there. Right. And it was so funny because I was going in to see Phil all the time. And everybody knew I was from the Stern Show. Hey, we're building a studio for Howard Stern. You want to see it? So I saw it in all of its stages of development. But nobody knew. I was sworn to secrecy. Statute of limitations. So I walk out and Gary's like, hey, Zach, how you doing? Want to see the new studio? I said, if there's room for me and those fucking teeth in the same room, sure. So we go, and he shows me the studio, and you know how it's set up.
Right.
And it's beautiful, of course. And we go out the other door. And Tim Sabian's standing there. Hey, what are you doing here? So I'm working with Howard. I said, oh, that's great. He says, why don't you have a show on Sirius? I said, nobody ever asked me. He said, you should have a show. You really should have a show. I said, well, let's do it. I would love to have a show. And then eventually it was like, you got to meet with Howard.
Right.
And I met with Howard, and then it became...
And when you met with Howard for that...
It became Jackie went to dinner with Howard and begged for a show and got one. That's what...
Well, how long had you not talked to Howard by the time that meeting came about? Been a few years?
Well, I had done I did the day before. The day before his last day on terrestrial.
Right.
I was a guest.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Which
Okay.
was just one of the greatest hours.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
But we bonded so heavily. Did I ever tell you about that? Was just.
Yeah, that
I
was
walked
fun.
in. I was nervous because what's going to happen? You know, I think they're going to rain on 5 years worth. I walked in and sat there, and Howard's sitting there, and I sit down, and Gary walks in and sits down. And I swear on my mother, and I know he would admit to this, I looked over, and I looked back at Howard, and his face was just gleeful. And he said, "You like those, don't you?" And I said, "Howard, there's never been a second in my life where I have not been entertained by that mouth." And we just laughed, and Gary just sat there and shook his head, and we were in the old show.
I can remember saying to myself, I was sitting there, in the back, and I said, I can't believe how fast that happened.
Oh man, it just
That happened insanely quick.
it was just beautiful.
Gary's teeth on cue. He sat down.
But I wasn't looking for. I just looked over, and I really caught myself like staring at a girl's boobs, like. And so then, however long, maybe it was a year. I don't know how long it was, but
You came. I think it came about the beginning of the second year. We were there. You had the show on the joke
206
show,
or something
right?
like. So I went to Howard, and this is a terrible story, but we met at this little restaurant across from where he lives. And it's a little single storefront Italian restaurant.
I know the one.
So
yeah.
so there's like drapes hanging, and it's very ornate and everything. And there's a door going to the back where there's like a little patio. And we were walking out there, and like drapes are hanging, but there's a low hanging door jamb. And he smacked his forehead into the door jamb. So of course I'm giggling, and we sat to dinner, and he had a fucking welt on his head. The whole meeting, I'm sitting there, and my eyes would drift up, and I'd smile, and he was getting so pissed. I said, "Hey, listen, if Fred had hit his head and was sitting there, we'd both be sitting there pissing ourselves." So so we're having this business meeting, supposedly, and I'm laughing at the smack on his head. And so it became Jackie went and begged for a show. But I told him I wanted a show, and then he said, "All right, let's get it together." And I went in, and Tim went back and forth, and finally I said, "Wait a minute." And I looked at the schedule. I said, "Right there, Tuesday, 7 o'clock, there's nothing in there." He says, "Well, that's all right. Put us in there."
Right.
And they put us in there. And
So now it's a few years of sort of like a good time of like.
we did it for 8 years. You was our first call in. It was so great.
That's right. So you were having that's a good relationship with Howard at that point too, right? You're working for him again. And
As far as I
you're
know.
having fun, and
I love the show. Never said anything shitty. As far as they didn't promote us at all. They mentioned it on the air, but there was nothing on the website. It was like, it was pretty agonizing.
It was impressive though that you did take a theme and come up with. It was really well done. It was prepared
did
and
402 shows.
Right.
Everyone had a different name, and they were so stupid. And sometimes we stuck to the topic, sometimes we didn't. But you go back and it was goofy. It was not for. If you didn't like jokes, it sucked. But if you don't like opera, don't go to the fucking opera.
I don't like jokes though. But so now, obviously, I left and that whole thing of like all those shows. When did that end, and how did it end? Because I don't even know anything about that.
And neither do I.
Right.
It was so weird. First of all, he didn't invite me to the wedding, which was weird, but who cares? And then we were there for 8 years, and it was after a certain amount of years, Tim, we were going to ask Tim for more money, so we all went out to dinner. He said, "Well, the good news is you guys can stay, but the bad news is we're going to put you on once a month."
Right.
And I'm like, "What?" And I didn't want to do it once a month, so we continued to do it once a week.
Right.
But our pay went to 1 quarter. We were getting paid
man.
like we're doing the show once a month. And so we did it like that for 2 years. But you know me, I love that fucking show. I live for
Right.
people. It
Now you
seemed
could
like
tell, even in
people-
the promos, you could tell it. I mean, you like that, the passion of it,
And a lot of people in Hollywood would laugh, and they loved the jokes and the craziness, and that was fun. And then all of a sudden, the week before November, the week before Thanksgiving last year, or the year before, I think last year.
Right, because it was right when the TV guys sort of left too. I know, right?
Maybe
Somewhere around
maybe
there.
before
Yeah.
that. I don't know, because I wasn't in step with the guys, with the show, but they just said, you guys have 2 weeks left, and your last show's the Tuesday.
Now, who
before
tells you
Thanksgiving.
that? Who physically tells you that
I don't.
at that point? Because
I
Tim was gone, right?
I don't know whether McClure told.
Oh, Jim
Ian,
McClure. Yeah.
Whatever, but that was it. And then a week after that was the holiday party, and we were. We weren't invited to they had a 60th birthday party for Howard.
No, I know.
That was
I wasn't there either.
It was his 60th birthday, but it was a Sirius XM event.
Right.
And we were employees of Sirius XM, and we were also employees on one of his stations.
Right.
And I got 30 or 40 emails from people, Jackie, can I be your +1 for Howard's birthday party? And I had to write back and say, I'm not invited. Come on, you can make up a better story.
Well, none of the TV guys were invited either. They worked there for 20 years. They weren't invited.
People who get invited, the guy that picked them up in a cab that morning,
Lena Dunham from Girls is there.
Yeah, but it's not my,
No, it's
not for me to say, invite me to your wedding, invite me to this. You can invite whoever
It's
you
just
want.
odd.
It's
It's very odd. That's all.
But the point is,
out.
it wasn't like clean up your act, or we don't like your jokes, or the jokes got funny, or it was just all of a sudden, you're done.
Right.
And I think they said, oh, we're canceling all the shows. And then they didn't.
Right, yeah, well, again.
And that's smart, because I love doing that show.
And no interaction with Howard,
No.
So when's the last time you talked to Howard?
Everybody asks me that, and I cannot tell you. I think a year ago, the Christmas party
At the Christmas
that
party.
I wasn't at. In other words, there wasn't one on Christmas.
Right.
I wasn't invited to one last Christmas, but the year before, I think, was the last time. I don't think we spoke on the phone at all.
Well, listen, man. It's again, like you said, the positive and the fun times outweigh the negative by far
And
for
it was
both of us. And it's
very little
it's the
negative.
highlight of a career. For both of us, and it's just just odd stuff takes place, and I always felt weird that you sort of never had a venue in a long form to really say your piece, and it's really, if you look at the numbers especially and the logic of it, you did nothing wrong.
No, and there's been times I could certainly sit and pontificate and do a podcast of my own or put something out, but. I don't want to ask myself, but I have it's very sweet of you to ask me and give me a forum to talk about it. I don't know if this is driving your listeners up a wall. They probably want to know what's the score of the fucking Yankees.
No, anybody who's a fan of the Stern Show, which obviously is all this audience, I'm sure on Twitter they say they're fascinated by it.
But so many people just can't even conceive of you being lucky enough to be on that show in that chair and doing anything to queer the deal. And they don't understand. It's a job.
Right.
Now, Mickey, you're just going out there and hitting a baseball. No, it's my job. I'm allowed to ask for more money.
Right. And it's not something that's just, you just do. There's a skill to it, too. There's pressure. It's not everybody can do it.
It's a little bit getting there.
Right.
A little bit getting there.
Sure. But again, I just hope that, I hope that Howard finds sort of a peaceful medium with what he wants the show to be, because I think it's clear that he wants to do those celebrity interviews like the Gwyneth Paltrows, like you're talking about, and be known for that. And I think if that's the case, why not just do those interviews? Because he's the best at it.
I agree. Do people complain to you? It's 15 years later. People come up and say, why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing
I know. They tell me that all the time. I get in a car with a guy and just drive me to the airport. He's asking me about it. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
People say, he's the greatest interviewer there ever was, but the show sucks. I'm like, wait, no, it can't go both ways. But like you say, so just do the interview.
I think he felt, and again, very wisely, like Howard is, he said, if I get rid of that other raunchy part, I can get the Gwyneth Paltrows, and I really want to do that now at this point in my life. I think that was a conscious decision. And look,
So what happens to all those guys? Did he get a gang of people working?
Well,
there,
now
right?
we're going to find out in the next month what he's going to do. I don't know what happens, but it's a very interesting time there, and it's a very odd time, and I could not be further away from it, as I guess you are. So that's it.
And as far as somebody changing how they want to be,
right?
Somebody can be a Jew and all of a sudden one day say I'm going to be a Catholic.
A lot of Jew analogy.
I love this guy. It's great.
No, but again, Jack,
I know I switched.
There's a lot of. I'm saying there was always a lot of affection for you, man, from me and all the fans from my era. And
I love that, and I have always been so good and loved all the fans and the cops and
the fans are the best. They're just it's like a family.
I love,
and that's a testament to Howard.
Too. All the ball breaking and all everything.
It was a blast. I mean, so what are you doing now as far as work? As far as how busy are you? What do you do?
I'm not. I was laughing with Geno. I'm at the point where if the phone rings, I take the gig before I answer the phone.
So you actively want it. You're not slowing down at all. You like working and you want to keep.
You know what? you answer all the same questions all the same time, and as far as I can determine, I'm in heaven when I'm on that stage telling those stupid jokes again. I love it. Now maybe I got myself hypnotized.
No, I'm the same way. It's like I was saying. It's like Buddy Guy playing guitar. We're gonna die on the on the road. You got to keep doing it.
I worked for 200 firemen in Floral Park on Saturday night, and I wouldn't have traded it for the world. They screamed at every word. Drunken firemen, quiet as a pin.
Right.
Like while I'm working, and I just love it. Some of the gigs, you drive further for less money, but then you have a big paying job here and there, and it's great. And sometimes you make a lot of money, and the gigs are horrible. You know? Not that you're horrible, but the setup or
sure.
But you've just learned to roll with them and roll. And it's so funny because when we're on the show, I remember saying to people, I said, "Oh, yeah, it was a great show, and yeah, I just made enough money to choke a horse, and you know what? Someday I'm going to be telling those same jokes for 1/30th the money." Bobby, goddamn,
Well, the perception was always too that you were wise with your money. You seem so you're comfortable, you're happy. I mean, real estate.
That is a funny thing.
Yeah.
That is a funny thing.
Because the perception was always Jackie's got 8 houses. He's fine. Yeah.
The perception was that I was cheap, and my friends used to go nuts because there's no more generous person on the planet.
Right.
And believe it. Jack Benny was the most generous person on the planet.
Right.
In real life, you know. But Howard's smart, and he knew that was a button that made me nuts. I'd have a party and have 200 lobsters and everybody from the show, and he'd tell everybody I was cheap because I was swimming when I should have been cooking. And the listeners be like, yeah, he's cheap.
Swimming out to the jetty.
Was the time you were selling your boat, they went off on it, right?
Swimming out with the beer on you, with you holding the beer in between your teeth.
It was so much, and I loved all that shit.
Well, here's why
all that shit was true,
I'll give you an example of why me and my friends loved Jackie. This was how it's insanely unique. A guy calls up once and thinks he's going to get Jackie, and I think Howard thought Jackie was going to be embarrassed by this. And the guy said, "Hey, Howard, I just want to let you know, my buddy said he saw Jackie stick his ass out a moving van once on a highway and take a shit out the window." And Howard's like, or something like that. And Howard looks at Jackie and goes, "Oh, is that true? Aren't you embarrassed by that?" And not embarrassed at all, Jackie said, "That's a harvest moon." Not only were you not embarrassed by it, you proudly had a name for it. I thought, what do you get? It's a harvest moon. I mean, like that sums up why we love Jack.
I was on stage.
It's a harvest moon.
I was on stage for JJ at JJ's Comedy Club at one of those restaurants somewhere, and I did a show, and I got done with the show, and my buddy, I don't care, Mike Iacovelli, we'd known each other since 7th grade. He played so long ago. He played the accordion in our band. Wow. In our band, we had an accordion player in the band. Great friend. And I come off stage and I'm selling my stuff, and there he is with a couple of friends. Yeah. I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "We came to see the show. You were great." I said, "Why didn't you tell me you were here?" He says, "I should have told you were here, that I was here, so you could tell this entire crowd that I was driving when you took a shit out the window." And I said, "I guess you got a point there."
Did that happen once?
Once.
How old are you when that happened? Is this college days when you had the band?
This is.
Could you imagine?
Senior year. It's so much worse than you imagine. It's senior year of high school, and
high school,
and we had gotten to be friends with the guys from Syosset, which was a couple miles away, which is far away.
It's a very Long Island story.
Me and Bates, the guy in my band, we actually had a couple girlfriends in Syosset. We all would go over there and finger fuck them, and it was like, you did what? Like this is 1965.
Right.
And nowadays, the kids are finger fucking each other on the way to kindergarten. So we're hanging out with the guys from Syosset. So of course, you want to be fun.
You want to be fun.
So we're riding to Syosset, and Iacovelli's driving.
You want to be fun.
And they're driving behind us, Jimmy Cristiano and Jim Barry. And
that's right. Name names, Jackie.
Well, you never know if somebody's going to say, "Cristiano, Marley was talking about."
Fucking names make it funnier, Jimmy Cristiano.
Yeah.
So Iacovelli is one of these guys that gags to the point of almost dying.
Yeah.
If he sees poop,
right?
Or
you mean he's a human being?
I mean, a couple times I caught him off guard, and he almost died from gagging. So I know that he has this gag reflex.
He's the kind of guy, if you shit out the window, he's going to be a little sick.
So aggravated.
So he's
what a pussy.
He's driving. I know right where of all things, we're going We were on like Cove Road in front of Oyster Bay High School. And we're in front of it. We're going slow. It's school district. School zone.
Forget selling drugs. You can't shit out the window in a school district.
And I pulled down my pants. I can't believe it. I don't care. I could be dead tomorrow, Danny. I pulled down my pants.
How fast are you going?
I know. How am I going to the bathroom?
No, how fast
are you driving? 20 or 30, I don't know.
It's a harvest
but
moose.
I stick my ass out the window, and I look at Icabelli, and he's driving. I'm like, ah! And he's like, no. And I'm, I wiped my ass with 2 fingers and wiped it on the outside of the windshield. I said, Icabelli, look at that. He almost hit a fucking pole. I'm telling you, he was like,
Icabelli.
Wow. Oh, my God.
Icabelli, look at that.
We were so drunk. It was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We're drunk as shit.
Oh, that is so fucking...
Laughing our fucking balls.
No, and first of all, that's amazing, that story. Second of all, the fact...
And I would not make that up.
No, why would you? The fact
I'm
that...
not trying to impress anybody.
You're just trying to be cool, Jack.
Icabelli tells it different. He says it was 3 fingers. No, but the fact that the guy thought he got you, he thought he was going to embarrass the great Jackie the Joke Man, and not only did he not, he casually said, "It's a harvest moon." Oh, it's fun.
Yeah, that got Fred too. That got Fred and how they just went.
I got to tell you something.
To his credit, Icabelli did call up. You know, when they started calling me on, he called up and said, "Listen, it happened." You know, trust me.
Are these guys still around? Icabelli, Cristiano?
Yeah,
hopefully. You talk to guys like that anymore? Do you see?
Cristiano is in Los Angeles, and he's made himself billions of dollars. I think his son was a big fan for a while, and then because that's the great thing about the Stern Show.
People hear it.
It took us so long to get into Detroit because I went to Michigan State.
Right.
And I
Michigan's a whole other...
I wanted my friends to listen.
Right.
And we didn't get into like 1999 because I had that whole thing with the one-legged girl from Detroit. And I wanted the word to get around because maybe somebody's going to hear it. And I'm going to finally find out this girl. You know?
It is an odyssey. It's great. I mean, again, people say I had great stories. Jackie, the two of us should combine with a coffee table book, and we really make money.
A picture of Icabelli's old Ford with me with my ass hanging out.
Shit stain on the windshield.
I got to tell you this. We've been talking for over an hour. This is just, but I want to know if you're interested in this because
yes.
We have to do this before one of us dies or retires, and I think I'll be both. I'll be first in both. We have to do a gig together. Me and you have to. We got to. Let's find the theater.
Turn your head. Ask me how many years I've been chasing this fucking plump cock sucker.
Plump cock sucker. Does that mean he sucks plump cock? Or plump and he sucks cock?
I know, but listen,
I like a plump cock
I've had
sucker.
issues in it.
We are being so outrageous, and you're going to come in here with a little semantic shit. Fucking Dago.
Well, I'm going to try.
Just making my day, Jack.
I know. I've had issues back and forth. I
no, I'm kidding. I would live.
We have to do a gig together. We just find a theater.
We got to do it. We got to charge some money and do a Q&A and do a Q&A afterwards.
I'm up for the whole thing.
My friend Toby Ludwig asked me to ask you if you would do this 10 years ago, and I tried to ask, and it's one thing when the guy's got a football and you don't. Peter Bales has the greatest story growing up on Long Island. He had a friend who had a pool, and he said that they used to actually put on, a snorkel and a mask and flippers and knock on the guy's door and say, "What do you want to do today?"
That's a ball breaker.
So you're on top of the world on the Stern Show, and you're making $300,000 a gig, and I can't fucking work at Governor's that I started. So for me to say, "Hey, why don't we be partners?"
No, believe me, with me, with blowing off a gig with you, I had to do with more drug situations than that. To be,
do you know the story? Jackie Gleason had a friend, and when they were poor, they'd get drunk every Christmas Eve on eggnog.
Yeah,
they'd make eggnog and put in rum and put paprika on the top, right? Not nutmeg on the top,
right?
And they get so drunk, and then Gleason goes to the moon, and he's a gazillionaire, and the guy becomes a bum. The guy used to show up at Gleason's house, knock on the door.
Oh God!
Holding nutmeg, and he'd say, "Let's have some eggnog." That's all he had was the fucking nutmeg.
Oh God!
So I felt like the guy with the nutmeg saying, "Let's have a gig."
Well, I'm saying,
I would love to do
We're gonna soon. Jackie and I are gonna get together. We're gonna book a theater in the New York area.
Watch this, Geno. I'll have my people call you.
And we're gonna.
Hey, you need a good host if I can insinuate myself into the show.
Geno is. Geno's going to be involved because we're going to ask him to call a comic who would host. And,
Kevin?
No, he's a perfect host.
Hold on, quiet. Holy shit! Do you hear that? You hear that? Can I be on the show?
Stuttering, you're right. Stuttering John, the second this hits the internet, that's 100% right. He will be on the show.
Wait. I got a text.
He was on the Tonight Show.
Listen, we do it.
Yeah, I'm in.
It will be a kill.
Yeah.
And then we could literally do every major Stern market and really make, I hate to say it, a lot of money.
Well,
but we could also have a fucking riot. But this is a total win for me, and because it's me sucking off your toenails.
This is just going to be a blast. So we're going to start out with a theater in New York. We'll tell you about it. And,
Let me back way up and just say, yes.
And Geno will somehow be involved, I'm sure.
I'll show up anyway. You might as well put me on.
You know, Jack,
pizza.
I appreciate you coming in here, man. And again, I hope, and again, if you have, I hope you don't feel awkward about anything. I think you,
Not a word.
people, so many people don't know the details of that story. I didn't, and believe me, it's wrong to think you were wrong in how you felt back then. That's all we're saying.
And it's important that people know there was no animosity. It wasn't like I want off this show because it sucks.
It's a business.
It was
thing.
as much fun the last day as the first day. It was like, I think I'm worth this, and I would like more. And if you want to negotiate for something, if you're not ready to walk out, you got no negotiating power. Please, can I have this? No. All right.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, I think every fan of the show, hardcore fan back then, too, felt you were absolutely justified in wanting that. I mean, you were a real asset to the show, and dare I say, helped create the show. You know what it was. But I mean, look, Howard is a one of a kind, an icon, a genius. But you guys were all there in the beginning, and I don't think you were wrong for it.
I'll tell you, they can be mad at me all they want, the listeners, but the point is, I said I would come in for exactly what they offered me, and all they had to do was say yes.
The not calling is a really fucked up thing.
You're
in the trenches together for a long time.
Please. That was really smart and so unprofessional. But the thing is, and so many people think that you bounced me out of the seat. You came
months later. Months later, yeah.
And people don't realize there were different people that tried to sit in the chair.
Yeah, sure.
Because it was an odd situation.
I mean, listen. Let me say that if they do make that phone call, I'm probably working at a gas station right now. So I'm in a lot of ways I'm happy they didn't, and that chair was open. But no, again, first of all, we could not have been. I was not good at what you were good at. I was not good at writing material for Howard at all. That's not. And
so it was apples and oranges from the beginning.
A very different thing. But I always felt honored to be there. And listen, I do feel privileged that me and you are in a club of two. It's a very, it's kind of a cool thing that I'm proud to be a part of. And
it's a great bond, and it's really wonderful. And the thought of doing some shows,
we're gonna do it. We'll talk about it, and we'll make that announcement as soon as we can. Do you got any plugs now? I would love
When does I don't know when we're not on live.
It'll be on tonight by like 8 o'clock.
I have a big show at Bolton Center.
Right.
It's a great theater on Long Island. It's called Bolton. It's part of the YMCA, but it's a theater that's part. These small towns are building these beautiful theaters.
Right.
And I went there, like my friends, the Alessis have played there, and Gene Cornish from the Rascals. A lot of people have been there. I had never been there. And Jimmy Webb was playing there. Jimmy Webb?
Sure.
Up and away. He lives down the street. He's my pal in Bayville. What's the odds Jimmy Webb lives in Bayville? And he's married to a Long Island girl, Laura Savini, that does the Channel 1.
I know she is. Yeah.
Great girl.
Yeah.
And we got close with them. And so I went to see him at this incredible theater. And it's one of those, you can hear a pin drop, and so you have so much dynamic range, and it's so much fun. And if you're a performer, you look at a space like that, going, "Man, would I like to get my hands?"
It's cool.
That.
You like to go to the show.
And the girl comes up and says, "Hi, I'm Michelle, and I booked this place. Would you ever want to work here?" I said, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
So she put me in, and I've been mentioning her name on radio shows, so she's all happy
Great.
and whatever. I don't know. I don't think it's sold out yet. And I don't even know how to spell sold out anymore.
When is it?
November 21st.
November 21st at the Bolton Theater.
The Bolton Center.
Bolton Center.
In Bayshore on Long Island. It's 8 p.m. I think it's like $30. And I'm going to play my guitar and tell some stories.
And how do we find you on Twitter?
At Jackie Martling.
At Jackie Martling.
I had to fight That's a whole nother story.
I know,
I had
it's
to
for the-
fight
Twitter
to
is
get
a
my
pain
own
in the
name.
ass.
At JACKIEMARTLING. And if you follow me, you get a joke every day at 4:20. You'll see the people complaining because they're so politically shitty, horrible.
It is the word. I mean, again, for you, I love that you keep fighting for all that shit. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. Fuck them. Fuck them.
And I'm every Monday night I have a show at Broadway Comedy Club, which is basically the joke hunt.
Right.
And I tell jokes, and I have a wheel that spins with 36 different categories. You know, Jews, anal sex, midgets, everything.
Jews, anal sex,
And
midgets?
people come up and spin it, and if they don't have a joke on the category, I let them tell any joke they got. And if they don't have a joke, I give them one to read, like joke hunt, and I yell at them when they don't get it right. And it's been just
funny.
a fucking
Anal
free-for-all.
sex with a Jewish midget is how you should go.
I think you should add plump cocks or
So,
sucker to the wheel.
Jack, thanks. But Geno, what do you got?
Oh, just follow me on Twitter. Geno Bisconti.
He's at Jackie Martin.
It's Geno, JACKIE Bisconti, MARTLING.
Filato, thank you. And Jack, may I say,
So,
it's an honor. It's an honor.
So a Chinese guy
Go ahead.
and
This is our Rosalita.
and a Russian guy and an American and a Jewish guy are sitting on a park bench. And a pollster comes up and says, "Excuse me, could I have your opinion on the meat shortage?" And the Chinese guy says, "What is opinion?" And the Russian guy says, "What is meat?" And the American says, "What's a shortage?" And the Jew says, "What's excuse me?"
And to any PC police out there, fuck off.
Yeah. Oh, and
Fucking love it.
36 years later, I still have 516-9221, 922-9463. People come and say, "I used to call your number 20 years ago," and I say, "Take out your cell phone," and they dial. "Oh, it's Jackie. You know, I love it when you use your finger." And people fucking can't.
The asshole yuppies now probably think you're gonna talk about a nice Chardonnay when they call that. But 516-922-WINE.
9221. Listen, we have not even begun to scratch the surface of the stories, because I was just thinking, if we did do shows together, people are going to ask the same questions, and we'll say, "You know what? We answered that every night for the last 5 shows, so we're going to answer a different
No,
question."
we'll figure out a way to segue into the story. But Jack, thanks so much. I love you, man. Thank you. Come back.
And I'm going to come
pleasure
back. I'm going
every
to come
time.
back and break balls with you guys. You know, I don't drink, and I don't shoot up, and I don't do coke, but I do have a lumpy little whore
Well, I stopped.
named Geno.
I stopped doing all that. I stopped doing all that in front of people.
Oh,
Jackie the Joke Man Marling, a
Thank you, Arthur.
legend, and
Just the best.
see you tomorrow.
thank you.